Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to share this episode with you today. I have a very special topic. I've been dying to share this with everyone. We've never talked about here on Learning to Glow, and I'm so very honored to have Andrea Kennedy. I can't think of a better guest to share this exciting topic of Reiki. Shortly after earning a Bachelor of Science degree in physics, Andrea took her first Reiki class in 1995. She was skeptical about Reiki as a result of her mainstream upbringing, but her personal practice brought wonderful blessings into her life. This inspired her to bring Reiki to more people and create her professional practice called Mainstream Reiki. Andrea is a phenomenal teacher. She breaks down Reiki in such an easy to understand way. She shares about how it works in this episode and how it's not some woo-woo fluff, but energy work that can be beneficial for a whole host of issues. And we get into that in today's episode. I recently was trained in Reiki this year, and I just have been amazed by Reiki, and I've been really seeking out Reiki as far as my own practice on myself, which you can do Reiki on yourself, and just helping others with it as well. And so in my research to really dive deeper, I found Andrea, and she's just incredible. I can't wait to hear what you think about this episode. Please reach out and let me know if you've heard of Reiki, if you've done Reiki, or if this is completely new to you. I would love to hear your feedback. And also, I am currently offering sessions. That's something that calls to you. Let me know. Reach out. I've been seeing clients, and I'm just amazed. It's you'll have to wait and listen to the episode, but all I can say is it's just amazing. You will really love learning what Andrea shares. And I'm sure many of you will want to learn more about her and see what she offers. So she has live and online Reiki classes, which I've taken, and she's incredible. I can tell you from personal experience. She has created this very popular Mainstream Reiki YouTube channel. That's how I found her originally. She hosts the Beyond the Reiki Gateway podcast. I love her podcast. It is not just about Reiki, as the title says. You know, they go into other topics that people who are interested in Reiki may be curious about or want to learn more about. So it's phenomenal. And she also offers spiritual and Reiki mentoring sessions. She welcomes Reiki people in her membership community for support and continuing education. So I'll make sure to link all of this in my show notes so it's easy for you to find. And enjoy this episode with the wonderful Andrea. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today we have Andrea Kennedy with Mainstream Reiki. Welcome to our show.
Thanks so much, Jess. I'm delighted to be with you.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you're here. This is a topic that we have not talked about on Learning to Glow yet. And you are a Reiki master. And a lot of my listeners are probably very new to Reiki. They may not know what it is at all. Maybe they've heard of it. But I'd love first, before we get into like, what the heck is Reiki? Why is it so wonderful? If we could start with, tell us a little bit about you. How did you come to find Reiki? What were you doing before? Like, whatever you'd like to share with us.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I could talk forever on just that, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet, hopefully. So what I would say is I was just very normal. I was just this mainstream person, but I was really curious about, why are we here? How does the universe work? So I had all these big questions. And I think that led me to study physics. So I graduated college with a physics degree, and my specialty was in something called health physics, which is all about radiation. So in a strange way, that is energy, right? And then what happened was my great aunt came to visit us, and she lived out of state, and she started talking all about this thing called Reiki. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she was talking about energy having to do with people, with our own personal energy, our life force energy. And I have to admit, I did not have any clue really about what that even was, but I was curious. And so I was asking her all these questions about this thing called Reiki. And she was answering me and she was very patient. And then finally she says, I could teach you level 1 before I leave and go home. And I thought, well, okay, not doing anything else. So that's what we did. It was a little impromptu class, and she taught me a little bit about it. And actually, my husband sat in too. So we both, became Reiki level 1 practitioners that afternoon. I didn't feel a thing, this energy and all of this. And all I knew was Reiki is for stress reduction and it's supposed to help you feel better. And I thought, well, that's good. I'd heard of meditation before and knew that that was supposed to be helpful. This was all the way back in 1995, by the way. So it was a whole nother world. The internet was very different. So there was really no information about Reiki. So anyway, I didn't feel a thing. But if I practice the hand positions, because that's how we administer Reiki, we just place the hands lightly on or off the body. It isn't massage, there's no manipulation of tissue, but it balances that life force energy or chi. People probably know Tai Chi, Qigong, things like that. That's the same thing that we're talking about in Reiki. But Ki is the Japanese term for life force energy, where Chi is the Chinese term. So anyway, I didn't feel a thing, but if I practiced with my husband, put my hands there and just intended to help him with Reiki, he felt things in his body. He felt sensations and temperature changes, like little tingling, here and there on the interior of his body, and he felt better. He would be so relaxed. That's what kept me curious because I didn't have a direct experience with it. But at its core, Reiki is super simple, and all it is, it's a balancing of that life force energy back to how it's supposed to flow in and around the body for us to feel good. But we just get out of whack. Life is stressful and we go through things, and that affects the energy and how it flows. But Reiki's so simple, anyone can learn how to do it, but anybody can benefit from it. It's amazing.
I love this. I did not know that story, that it was literally like somebody in your family that had this knowledge and could even teach you. That's so incredible. It literally fell in your lap. And
It did.
it's really interesting because you and I have talked about this before. I found you online because I feel like this year Reiki was this unexpected gift that I received, and I was certified and didn't even fully know what it was when I signed up for my certification. And I haven't even talked about this on the podcast yet, but I just had this gut feeling of like, I need to do this. And I found you. I'm just hungry for all of the information because it's so different when you have never heard of something like this. And I've even had it done to me in like a yoga setting, but it's so new, and I'm just going to say it. It's kind of weird. You're like, wait, you can learn how to do something that you could literally not even be touching the person and you can see this crazy result. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about like what it looks like to get a Reiki session. And we know it's energy, but how does it work? And I know that there are definitely people thinking, maybe there are people listening to this thinking, I know I have a lot of open-minded people that listen, but how can that be? Like a little skeptical, right?
Oh, yeah, and I totally relate to that because I was probably just as skeptical as anybody could be. I was science-minded. My mantra back then was, "I think, therefore I am." And so all of my emphasis for me at that time was on my analytical, scientific thinking mind. I got to see it to believe it, that kind of thing. And a lot of people, I think, do have that. I will also say I think we've gone pretty far with that. I do think so many more people are open to these things. Reiki is a complementary therapy, not an alternative therapy, and that gets confused quite a bit out there in the world. But the difference is that Reiki is not a replacement for medical care or psychiatric care, anything like that. But Reiki goes beautifully with those um, kinds of treatments. And so a session, well, basically, all you need is someone who has been trained. And we typically have 3 levels of Reiki: level 1, level 2, and Reiki master. And if a Reiki master receives the proper training in the master class, they can even teach others. And so all you really need is Reiki level 1. And the different thing about Reiki is practitioners, when they take a level 1 class, the I think different thing about this is it's not just book work. They actually learn how to tap in to the flow of life force energy that is pure. It isn't from their own bodies. Can tap into that. And when they do that, it comes through their own bodies, and that extra life force energy, that pure life force energy that they can tap into, is actually offered to the other person through the hands. I'm going to get a little bit off in the weeds here, but we have energy centers, chakras, a lot of people probably know that, but we have in our palms energy centers, and it's through those palms of our hands that we offer the Reiki energy. And so we we could have a client, and I always say client, even if we're helping our sister or our child, or it doesn't really matter. I just mean whoever is receiving Reiki. So a client can come, and typically we have them lay down during a session just because that's relaxing. If you were going to relax at home, you'd lay down, but we can administer Reiki in a chair or standing up, but that wouldn't really be very relaxing. So, for if a person goes for a Reiki session with a practitioner, they'll generally lay down on a massage table. They keep all their clothes on, different than a massage, but probably take their shoes off because, again, if you were relaxing at home, you probably would do that. So they'd lay down on the massage table, and then the practitioner of course, they would talk and, all of that kind of thing prior. The person receiving Reiki may have a specific reason for the session, of course. And so the practitioner would want to find out what that is. It could be stress reduction, it could be pain reduction, it could be anxiety, any number of things. And we can talk about that later. But the question about the session is, the person would lay on the table, and the practitioner would just simply probably take a couple of deep breaths, and they would just begin to channel this energy, given how they have learned to do that in their training. It doesn't look weird or anything else. It's just really an intention to tap in. And then they would begin, I would say, laying hands on. People know that term, right? Hands on healing.
Mhm.
So, as I said earlier, lightly touch the body or even off the body. And the whole idea is, again, to administer that pure, balanced life force energy. And, we could even talk about this scientifically, but we'll see if you want to go there. So, this energy is offered to the other person. They don't have to do a thing, they don't have to believe in it, they don't have to feel it. There's nothing required of the person receiving the Reiki in order to benefit. And so, what is very common is the client will fall asleep during the session. And, you know, you can't get more relaxed than that. And the beauty of Reiki is, even scientific studies show that when Reiki is administered, the body shifts from fight or flight or the stress mode to the parasympathetic mode of the nervous system. And that is relaxation. And I cannot tell you how many times I have offered Reiki to somebody and they are shocked at how the busy mind just quiets down. And that is such a different experience for them. And they didn't have to sit on a meditation pillow or listen to special music or, do anything in particular. Just lie there and receive this energy. So it's usually, a quiet space, dim lights, just again for relaxation. But the practitioner will typically move down the body and administer Reiki from the top of the head all the way to the feet. And that's the way we would give a whole body treatment. But again, we're not manipulating or rubbing the muscles or anything like that. So, as I said, the client gets very relaxed. Often they fall asleep. And typical sessions probably last about an hour.
Oh, I have so many questions. I'm like, I love what you said about it is a complementary treatment and not a
Mhm.
replacement. And I think that's so important. I actually read a really great book, and it was, I don't remember the author's name, but it was called Why Woo Woo Works. And
Yes, I've heard of
have you
that.
read that? Oh, it's so good. And there was a chapter on Reiki and how they are utilizing Reiki practitioners to come into hospitals in the UK and help post surgery and with different pain management. And since you did mention it, I would like to touch about the scientific aspects of Reiki, because I think that's really helpful for those people who are like, this sounds like a little weird, or like, is it real? So maybe we could talk about that next a little bit, just because I do love that there are actual, medical facilities that are recognizing this as what it is powerfully healing and helpful in, yeah, just stress reduction alone. I mean, what we know, what that causes, how crippling this extreme stress can be, and how it can lead to so many chronic illness. So maybe we could start with that.
Oh, sure, Jess. So, what I would say, if we're going to look at this through a scientific lens, I really like to do that. But because you're right, Reiki has had a reputation for being new age and woo woo and out there. And I get it. I totally get it. But it can be extremely mainstream. It's in hospitals. It's in, even in the US, they have it in hospitals. Brigham Women and Children's, big hospital in the Northeast, the Cleveland Clinic. You can go to these websites and find out about Reiki. And it's medical facilities, but it
Hmm.
really is all over. So, scientifically speaking, all right, people might have heard that really everything is energy. That's really true. Now, I'm just an object that is appearing solid, but in reality, if we look at an atom, it's mostly space. I don't know if people can rewind back to their science classes, in high school, but an atom is mostly space, just empty space. And so, why are we appearing solid? Why is my microphone solid? It's just moving, it's energy that's moving very slowly. Let me give you a quick analogy. If you look at a ceiling fan that is off, you can see all the blades, right? And you can
Hmm.
count how many blades there are. You see the blades of the fan. If you turn that fan up on high, what happens? You can look through the fan and see the ceiling because that those blades are moving so fast it becomes transparent almost. It not really, but it does. So let's think about that. So our bodies and everything that we're looking at, it's really just energy that is appearing to be solid. All right. It's moving more slowly. There's a density to it. Okay. Now, our bodies, as I mentioned, we have energy centers, and energy flows in and around our bodies. You might have heard about biofield, or more commonly, the aura. So, that aura is that bubble around us. And, it's fun. Go have like an aura reading, and they have cameras, and you can see the actual colors in your aura. So, that's another way to, use science to see the energy. Now, one other thing, what about an EKG? It measures the electrical activity, the energy of the heart, or an EEG measures the energy of the brain. All right. So when we think about life force energy, that is that energy that makes us alive, our aliveness and our vitality. And so scientifically speaking, energy vibrates. And so if our system, let's say my energy system, for example, is just out of balance. I'm going to have my energy is going to be in I'll say disorder, okay? It's just not in balance. And so what we will see, I'm going to just make a side note here. When our life force energy is not in balance, over time, this is how we then manifest symptoms to things. Isn't that fascinating? So,
Mm.
think about ease of the body, relaxed and you're at ease. Your energy's at ease. When you're not at ease, what are you? It's dis-ease. And so when the body spends a lot of time, or the energy of the body spends a lot of time out of balance, that's when we over time can see actual symptoms appear. So that's the link I think is important to make between what we're talking about and health and well being. So, all right, so back to my energy. Let's say I'm out of balance and I go to a practitioner. They tap into Reiki and they offer me that vibration. Well, guess what? That energy, the vibration and frequency of that energy is pure. Like I said, it's like the optimum. Okay. It's the optimal blueprint for my energy system. So, again, I actually used to be a science teacher. So, here we go. Ready? Ready? Okay. If I have a tuning fork, think of high school science. Maybe your physics teacher had a tuning fork type of experiment. If I have two tuning forks and I strike one of them, it's going to start vibrating at a frequency that it's naturally tuned to. And if I have a second tuning fork and it's still, I can put them in proximity to one another. And do you know what happens? What happens is the one that was still begins to match the vibration of the one vibrating. And what that's called is sympathetic resonance. Or am I getting sciencey enough for you? So
I'm loving
sympathetic
it.
resonance. Yeah, awesome, cool. So sympathetic resonance, if we look at that in regards to Reiki, let's take a look at that, right? So I am the still or the vibrating out of sync tuning fork. And then here comes a tuning fork. That's that energy with that practitioner coming in at a clean and clear frequency and vibration, strong and vital, and coming up to my energy field. My body has intelligence and wisdom. My body knows what balance is. And in nature, nature seeks balance. So that practitioner is offering me that clean, clear, strong, vital frequency and vibration. My body says, "Ooh, that is order. That is order, that is balance, and my vibration will begin to entrain with the vibration of pure Reiki energy." Isn't that something? And so we don't have to think about crystals and woo woo and, new age. This is actually science and everything is energy. And so the laws of energy apply as well.
Oh, that I love that explanation. I actually had a Reiki treatment and she brought out the tuning forks in the
Nice.
session.
Yes.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
what? That's a perfect analogy. And I love all this. This is so fun. So when you are receiving this energy, you're on the table, you're receiving this energy. What are some of the things that people report to you afterwards? As I've been practicing Reiki. I have had people tell me what they experience, and then there's things that I experience as a practitioner. But one of the things that you said I want to mention first is that the body is able to get into that relaxed state, that rest and digest state. And you and I talked about this when we spoke last. So many of the people, my clients that I've seen, their stomach growls. And I was asking
Yes.
you, why does everyone's stomach growl? That was why.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Because as the body shifts into that rest digest mode, scientifically called parasympathetic mode of the nervous system, the body goes, ah, okay, let's take care of our needs. Each cell has different processes that it needs to do. But when we're under stress, it can't do it all because those cells are in survival mode. And so when Reiki it is administered and the body does shift, that relaxation causes the juices of digestion to go into the stomach. And therefore, there comes the stomach growling. So if you are receiving Reiki and your stomach growls, it's a great sign. It's telling you that, oh, my nervous system is telling me it's relaxed. So, I mean, in a way, that's proof. If you need proof that the Reiki is actually having an effect, isn't that something? So, we have stomach growling is a big one. People often get thirsty. Sometimes because again, we're going into that rest, digest, restore mode. Sometimes people will swallow a lot because they'll have an increase in saliva, again getting the digestive juices flowing. But most people will have thirst after a session, which is very good because that's very cleansing for the body. So let's see, what have we mentioned? Growling stomach, swallowing, because increased saliva. People will often, with their eyes closed, see colors. Isn't that something? They'll see
Mm.
colors, different colors. Purple is a very common color that people will see with their eyes closed. And, it is kind of interesting. Sometimes they'll get flashes of memories, from their life come through, just different, I guess I'll say mental sort of things happening while they're relaxing. And also, temperature changes are very common. So the person receiving Reiki might start to get very cold or even feel a breeze on them, and there's no air vent, nothing blowing on them. It's just a sensation. They could feel very hot. They could feel a tingling sensation in the body, sort of like, when your foot falls asleep or something like that. But usually it's pretty mild, that kind of tingling. So other things could be even pressure. So even if the practitioner does not have the hands touching the body, sometimes the person receiving Reiki thinks that the hands are actually on their body, but it's really the energy. So it's really so mysterious, and I don't know, the curiosity just never ends, from my perspective with this. I think it's fascinating. And I think that when people receive Reiki, it gives them a whole nother perspective on themselves as more than just that physical self they see in the mirror. They start to realize they really are an energy being who happens to have this physical body. There's so much more to us than maybe what we think.
I love that. It's very fascinating how individual your symptoms are, or what you feel, because maybe everybody's dealing with something different in their bodies. And then, like the cold sensation, I had a client who felt this crazy coolness on her one shoulder, and that was it. That was the only area, and like that was the only person I've ever had that had that specific thing. And I, with the pressure, what you said, I had one client who said it felt like I was gently pushing on their chest, but I was not. And one person was like, I feel like, did you put a fan on like halfway through the session?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. But it's
Yes.
so interesting. It's so unique to the individual. And I think it's so fun to see. And then I've also had people who are like, I didn't really feel anything. I feel deeply relaxed, but I didn't feel my feet tingling or, different things like that.
Yeah, there's a whole spectrum. And you know what? What is fascinating to me is it doesn't depend on what the practitioner feels or what the client feels. And this is really remarkable and really odd, isn't it? Because, well, I'll just tell you a quick story. I had a client come in. I used to see clients in a in person in my office and the whole thing, and had a full-time practice before the pandemic and everything. Anyway, this woman comes in, and the first thing out of her mouth is, I'm really skeptical, and I don't think that this Reiki thing is anything, but I thought I'm just going to give it a try. And I thought, wow, that's great. Thanks for showing up, but I thought inside, I thought, oh boy, because I wanted to, I wanted her to have a great session. So, my personal thing kind of came up there. And as Reiki practitioners, we know it's always best to just set that stuff aside and just let the Reiki do the work. But we're human, right? So, anyway, so I do the session with her and I get started and I'm not feeling anything. Now, at this point, I've been a Reiki practitioner for 20 some odd years, and I'm thinking, what is happening? Why am I feeling nothing? Because that was not normal for me. And I thought, oh boy, this woman she's going to be proven right, right? So
Mm.
anyway, I got all in my way. I was very in my head during the session and then I was mad at myself for doing that and so I had this whole thing going on, this whole dialogue to myself because, I don't talk during the session. But I just thought, "Oh my goodness, what is going on?" At the end of the session, I gently touch her arm and tell her something like, "Well, when you're ready, you can, bring your awareness to your eyes and slowly open them." I didn't even finish talking. She opens her eyes, spins her head around, and she goes, "Reiki is real." And I just was like, "Really? Oh, awesome." And I just thought, "Yay, Reiki," because I didn't feel anything. And here I was convinced that, she probably didn't feel anything either. She went on and on. She felt sensations. She saw colors. And I just was in awe. And this, I think, illustrates the simplicity of Reiki and how we don't have to believe anything for it to
Mm.
work. There is no religious connection. There is no requirement for a person to be a meditator or be spiritual or any kind of thing. We all have life force energy. Doesn't it make sense that we should be
Yeah.
able to help ourselves and each other with that energy? And, Reiki is that. Reiki is that available to all people, and all people can be helped.
That is such a good story. It's so funny that you mentioned that because I have a lady that I know who messaged me and said, I'd like to try Reiki, but I don't believe in Reiki." Like she said, "I don't think I believe it, but I feel like I need it." So I'm like, maybe she's being guided in her, body to come and try it out. But now I won't have to worry. I'll just be like, "Listen, this is it. No matter what you think or what I think is going to get in the way of the Reiki," which I really love that. It's more powerful than that.
Yeah. The outcome will be the outcome,
Yeah.
and it's tough as a practitioner because, we care and we want them
Yeah.
to feel better, and if they're in pain, we want their pain to leave, but the best way to approach a session is to just trust the Reiki and whatever shall
Mm.
be, shall be.
What you had mentioned in the story of sometimes as a practitioner, what you feel like, you were like, "Oh, wow, I'm not feeling anything." But typically, what do you feel when you're doing a session? And, it was funny, you had mentioned sometimes the client will start swallowing more when they are receiving Reiki. I was doing a session the other day and I was like doing that. I was like, "Oh, I'm like swallowing and like getting very thirsty." And I was like, we also feel things in our bodies. So can you tell us a little bit about what a practitioner could experience?
Oh, yeah. So it could very well be everything that I mentioned before, that the client may feel. And that includes the stomach growling. Now, isn't that interesting? Why would that be? Well, that practitioner is tapping into the Reiki and bringing it through for the client. Well, guess what? They're receiving Reiki while they give it. You see, there's no downside to this. And this is another
Mm.
reason practitioners, they are not drained. They are not drained by offering Reiki. They're receiving Reiki. It's like there's nothing negative about Reiki. There's no downside. We don't have to sacrifice ourselves. So, I mean, I remember I had this session with a woman and my stomach was so loud. It had never growled that loudly. and that persistently in my life. And finally, I mean, I tried to just ignore it. And finally, I just had to say, I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah, I'm wondering what is going on. But I guess I just shifted into that relaxation mode right along with her. But yeah, I'll never forget that. But temperature changes, yeah, the tingling. We'll often, too, practitioners will often scan the body with our hands and use what sensation we feel in our hand to guide us to where that person needs Reiki. And all we're really doing is sensing changes as we scan down the body. So we'll sense on purpose that way, to help the client more specifically, but just in general, it's very meditative also. So I'll offer Reiki, and then I'm just very much feeling like I'm in a flow. It's just gentle and quiet. I have received the best insights and answers to problems, during a Reiki session. So wonderful ideas come to me. It's almost like I guess because I allow my mind to relax, and it's a wonderful time to just offer Reiki, be in the flow, relax. And as I said, all those other sensations are completely possible. But I have to say, the ideas and inspirations and things, I love that. But, in a nutshell, too, just to be clear, the benefits of Reiki very much are the same as meditation. And so that might help listeners to kind of, I guess, understand what to expect with Reiki as well. And it works mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. It works on all the levels, which, again, it sounds too good to be true, but with Reiki, it's true.
Oh, I love that. It's funny that you mentioned that when you are talking about you're getting inspiration or ideas. And actually, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was intuition. And one of
Hmm.
the things that drew me to Reiki was that I heard that it helped deepen your own intuition. And that is something that I'm very interested in. I feel like I've always been a very intuitive person. And I've had like dreams that have come true, like a little scary, actually. Some of the things that I've seen, and like, I've always thought, wouldn't it be interesting to go deeper and learn how to really get in touch with my intuition? Because I'm not, and I feel like I could have, cool things could happen if I was able to do that. When I first started my wellness journey, I had already been in the skincare industry for years, working on client skin and as an educator for multiple skincare brands. When I learned about how the toxins in our personal care and beauty products could have a negative impact on our health, I knew I needed to make a change. I was used to the result-driven products that I was working with, and I was not happy with the natural products on the market at that time. Although they were safer and cleaner, they did not meet my expectations for results. I created Simply Just Skincare to deliver the results my clients demanded from their products while using natural, toxin-free ingredients. You can check out my clients' results and reviews on my website, simplyjustskincare.com. In 30 days, my clients have reported more hydrated skin, less appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, and more of an overall glow. Our top sellers include our Repair Toner, our Hydrating Undo Serum with hyaluronic acid, and more. I am offering my listeners 20% off their first order with code PODCAST. Check it out in the link in my show notes to get glowing today. So I wanted to ask you about intuition and Reiki. And as you have been doing it over these years, many years, have you felt like your intuition has really gotten deeper?
Yeah, I really have, Jess. And, I think that even as a child, I was pretty, in tune with things. I would say I just received information as a child.
Mm.
Just, yeah, I would know things that children shouldn't really know. And I could read people pretty well, but I just thought that was normal. But what Reiki did for me was it really made my awareness much clearer. And to me, I think intuition's a part of that. But when we become more aware, then we feel in our bodies more. Because remember, when I first learned Reiki, I didn't feel a thing. It was completely, nothing. Now I am very sensory. I sense in my body different feelings, sensations, things like that, but also with the intuition and seeing things for clients. Channeling is my main thing that I do now in sessions for people. So Reiki can very much open us up in huge ways, and intuition is one segment of that. And what's remarkable is I see this over and over and over with my students. And I'm going to tell you just a little quick story. I had a woman come to it was my Reiki master class, and I just teach it over 3 full days. So we get together, and at the beginning of the class we do our introductions and we talk, and she says, "Andrea, I want to be like you." She says, "You're really intuitive and you do all that stuff." And she says, "I've been practicing Reiki and I don't do any of that. I can't see things. I can't tune in like that. And I really want that." And I thought, "Ooh, okay, we'll put your order in." But so here's the funny part. So we go through Friday and Saturday. We did a practice because even though we're learning online, we do all the practice together. It's really remarkable how it all works online. They do a practice in a breakout room, she and her partner. They come back, and then we're going to talk about it with the rest of the class, because they all broke up into smaller groups and practiced online. And so she comes back and she's just so excited. And you know what she says? She goes on to describe how she was offering Reiki to her partner, her, practice partner, and a woman came in spirit, and she could see what she was dressed like. She had a message for this woman, her partner. She relayed the message. I mean, it was this huge session, and the woman was like, "Yeah, that was my grandmother." So this woman went from, "I don't see anything, I don't feel anything, wah, wah, wah," really sad about it, to this in 2 days. And so that's a pretty dramatic example. But what I want to get across is, so many people that learn Reiki will tell you that their intuition, that their psychic senses, their clairs, right? A lot of us talk about the clairs, clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, all of that just blew open with Reiki training and practice. And so it's one of these common denominators, I'm going to say, across the board. It's so common. I would say, I don't know anybody who hasn't gotten more in tune in that way after learning Reiki.
Oh, that is a really cool story. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very it's something that I've heard a lot about, and definitely I'm very interested in that. And and even just for your own life, like to tune into the voice that you need to listen to, and that could be for so many different things. It could be positive for so many different things. So if somebody is interested in having Reiki, and I want to talk about, more like your clients, what is like the most common things people come in? You did mention it feels almost like the same effect as meditation, like when you're done with meditation. I actually had a client who said, "I cannot meditate. I just can't, but this I can do." Is what he said. He was like,
Yes.
"I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
and then I feel as good as I want to from meditation, but that doesn't work for me." So is it a lot of people who are coming in for stress, or is it just like so many different things that you would see when clients would come in?
Oh, yeah. So it was kind of all across the board. A lot of people, and again, I will say, with the pandemic, I took my practice for distance Reiki, which is a whole nother mind bender, right? But it completely works. And now I do spiritual mentoring and channeling for people. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not offering, after thousands of Reiki sessions, I've shifted a little bit in my offering, but I can certainly speak from experience in my practice. And that is, I would see a lot of people that actually had medical challenges
Mm.
that they were dealing with. People with MS, people with gastrointestinal diagnoses, things like that. Also, stress, back pain, that's very common. And, back pain, something like that, people will try all kinds of things and they just don't get relief. And
Mm.
so, do you know how many times I've heard, I've tried everything? And so I'm here for Reiki. It's like so many people come to Reiki as like the last resort, kind of thing. And that's a shame because it's
Yeah.
non-invasive, you know, and in the Reiki will work even if the practitioner doesn't know what is really bothering the person. Isn't that fascinating? So, I can't tell you how many clients came in and on their intake form, they might say, the reason that they're here, is question on the intake form that is very useful for a practitioner just to kind of understand what brought them there. Stress reduction, something like that, something general. And then you do the session and feel so much energy, perhaps moving and things like that. And after the session, when we talk, oh my goodness, they've had a complete mind shift about something in their life. Sometimes clients will cry because they're letting things go that they've hung on to forever and ever. And again, it's non invasive. So we don't have to talk about the issues, that have weighed them down or have caused them pain or anything else. Reiki works to help them, regardless if the practitioner knows exactly what they need the most or not. And that's another way I think Reiki's a little mysterious for people because it does help people sometimes in ways they don't expect. One more quick example, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, I had a client come in and it was one of those, it was stress reduction kinds of things. And I just thought, okay, so we're doing the session and I don't know that anything else is bothering her. And then she actually contacted me a few days after the session. And she said, Andrea, she says, this is really interesting. And I wanted to let you know what happened. And I said, what? You never know what you're going to hear, right? So I was curious. She said that after the Reiki session, she felt good and relaxed, but she said she went home and she was very crabby. And she used a different word, but very cranky, crabby, that kind of thing. And she said she knew she was being like that and difficult with her family. And she knew enough though that she thought she was maybe processing something after the session because sometimes before we heal things, things can get a little stirred up, right? And that's normal and good though, right? So she left, she felt better, but then when she got home, she was crabby. It took a couple of days, and all of a sudden, she found herself looking at her husband, who was doing something across the room, and felt so much love for him. And she said she remembered why they got together 26 years earlier. And the feeling and emotion she had for him return to her was absolutely incredible and also unexpected. And so, from her perspective, she came in for the stress reduction and then she felt, relaxed, got really crabby. And then her relationship with her husband completely hit a reset button in the most beautiful way. And she
Mm.
credited that session to help her process and release whatever that was. And you know what? We don't have to know what that was. It's gone. And better days are here and ahead for them. So it's just amazing.
That's beautiful. I mean, like, who would think that you could have something like that happen with the Reiki session? I know there are
Right.
going to be it's like it's wild, and I've only been doing it for such a short time, and the things that people have said to me that have happened, I'm just like, "Wow." I mean, who knew? I'm so thankful that this came into my life because I feel like it's so exciting. It's so exciting. There's so many possibilities. And I know after hearing you speak, there are going to be people who are like, maybe I should take a Reiki lesson or a class because I want to be able to do this too. So I want to hear about your classes and your program that you offer. You also have a podcast. So if you want to hear more about Reiki, I highly recommend your podcast. I love it. And you
Oh,
have a
thank
great
you.
YouTube channel as well. So tell us a little bit about Mainstream Reiki and how people can find you.
Oh, yeah. Mainstream Reiki. Yeah, kind of says it all. It's all about education and just talking about Reiki like real people. It doesn't have to be woo woo. So, yeah, I have this YouTube channel, and it all started out with just being helpful, putting helpful information out for people to understand Reiki in a more mainstream way, and also practitioners, because sometimes they have questions, and that's totally normal, right? So that's how it started, and it's just grown from there. And a lot of the videos on there now are healing videos, Reiki healing videos, where sounds even more crazy, but I'm offering Reiki through the video. But I know that sounds far out, but people can go try it out, and it's totally free. See if they feel anything, see what they think, but also check the comments because people will comment their experiences with the video. So, some pretty amazing things there. Anyway, so that's that. And okay, mainstream Reiki. Oh, yeah, podcast, right? So, the podcast is called Beyond the Reiki Gateway. And that got started because so many people, maybe they take a have a Reiki session, and they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. I want to learn that because we can use Reiki just to help ourselves. We don't ever have to even offer it to other people. So it's very good for self healing too. So the podcast honors the fact that most people who come to Reiki are so turned on to this whole power. It's very empowering because we can help ourselves, we can help others. And they say, if I can do that, what else is out there? And so on the podcast, we talk about different things like the afterlife or past lives, different things that Reiki people may be interested in or curious about. Okay. And then my classes, I love teaching Reiki. I teach a 1 and 2 class. It's 2 days, it's live and online. And we have students from really all around the world. It's amazing. And then 6 months later, they can go on and they can take the master class with me. It's 3 days. And the sky's the limit, really. We can practice on ourselves to feel better. We can offer it to animals. We can offer it to other people. And then we even teach them how to send it over distance. And we didn't even touch on that, but remember, everything is energy. And so you might have sent somebody you love positive thoughts, and maybe they felt it or they said, "Oh, they pick up the phone. I was thinking about you." We send energy all the time. And so it's really, again, it isn't woo woo, it's just energy. And we are actually born w- as energy here. So it's really nothing foreign. We just have to kind of wrap our heads around that. So, anyway, I offer classes. We practice together, and then I even started a membership community for more support, more continuing education. So it's kind of a lot, really, Jess. But Reiki's awesome, and anybody can do it. And I just want to help people who want to help themselves and just perhaps raise their vibration and feel better.
Oh, you are incredible. I cannot wait to continue to learn from you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing. This is like my favorite topic right now. So I am so
Right.
lucky that you were able to share with us because you are so amazing. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, Jess. It's been awesome.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.